Welcome to Dakota Preparedness. Today's video is going to be about cyber warfare and cyber crime. Now, since the beginning of humanity, humans have utilized technology in warfare. Probably first sticks and stones, progressing to swords and spears, gunpowder, the nuclear weapon, laser-guided missiles. So it should be no surprise to us that sovereign states and individuals will utilize digital technology in warfare and in crime. And today I will show you a number of ways to defend against that, to protect yourself and your digital assets. Now, just as in physical security, you want a layered approach. Using the home as an example, you would have a gate and or fence. You would have a driveway alarm, video cameras, a good solid door with a lock on it. It's the layering of these different defenses that provide a synergistic effect that's bigger than just their individual parts. And so it's also true in protecting yourself against cyber warfare and cyber crime. Now, first of all, let me readily say that when it comes directly to defending the nation against cyber warfare, that is such a tremendous responsibility and far beyond the individual capability of an individual. It's the responsibility of chief information officers for the federal, state, county, and local government, for individual businesses, and they need to put the proper practices in place. Now, on an individual, there's certainly behavioral and physical things that we can do that will enable us to protect ourselves from cybercrime and even, to a certain point, to cyber warfare. Now let's look at 6 behavioral actions that you can implement that will greatly improve your digital and personal security. Number 1, my wife used to work for an old Southern attorney, and he was very fond of saying, don't say anything or write anything you wouldn't say or read in open courtroom. Now, that's good advice for social media. In your personal relationships or in your public relationships, it's just plain good advice. Now, we can enhance it by saying don't take any photos or video, anything you wouldn't show in open courtroom or have displayed on the front pages of a newspaper. Second, beware of online scams. Don't fall for emails, phone calls, or messages offering something too good to be true. Such deals are usually not true. If it's too good to be true, it's probably false advertising at the very least, or they're trying to draw you into some sort of crime. Third, think before you click. Be cautious about opening emails, links, and attachments, especially from unknown senders. The fourth item is a combined behavioral and physical action, and that is when you're done with the computer, then turn it off, unplug it, and take, if it's a laptop, fold the top down. Or I suppose if you have a desktop where you can't fold it down, just put a cloth over the mic and the camera. So this will serve the purpose of making your PC more stealthy. It's sort of like a submarine with the periscope coming up and coming down. While you're using the computer, you have a higher risk of receiving a cyber attack. Just like, even though it's remote, for a submarine, when the periscope is up, it leaves a little higher profile, which could be seen by the enemy. And so when you're not using the periscope, bring it down under the water where no one will see it. And the same applies to your home computer. Number 5, banking online. Choose a particularly strong password for your online banking accounts. And another thing is you want to use what's called a multi-factor authentication. Now, you may be familiar with this and currently using it. It's a simple application of it is when you're using or accessing a particular function of a website, you key in your ID, then you key in your password, and then it prompts you for a telephone number that they know about. And so they send you a code on your phone, and then you have to key that code in to the computer. This makes it far more difficult for any hacker because now they have to control the website, the internet, and your iPhone. Now, it can be done, but it makes it a lot more difficult. And number 6, as far as behavioral items, is make sure when you're shopping online, you're using a very reputable website. I often will sometimes defer to using a website that I feel comfortable with. I've used it for years. I've never had a problem. I will use that even if it costs me a slightly bit more money. So make sure you're dealing with a reputable online shopping website. Now, let's talk about 6 technical safeguards that we can put in place. Now, I call them technical, but they should be in the grasp of most people, or certainly for probably a fairer price, you can get a technical consultant to come to your home and implement these procedures. Now, the first one is to have an external backup. Now, this is a Seagate drive that I've used for many, many years. It's very trustworthy. You just plug it into the USB port of your computer, and then I manually back up the critical data that I need, and then unplug it from the computer and store this offline. Now, there are systems that will automate that. You can even enhance it one step further and have a 2 generations. In other words, have a hard drive like this that you keep on site, and then you take that one once you get a new backup and you store it off-site. So even if your entire house burns down, you're still A-OK. So this is very helpful if you will receive a virus on your personal computer or receive ransomware. You might possibly have the option of simply going back to your last backup. It also is invaluable if you have a hardware failure. The next item we briefly touched on before is with many applications, they will actually allow you to elect whether you have a multi-factor authentication. And while it is a little bit of a hassle to get the code off your iPhone and key it in, it just tremendously improves security. So I would suggest you implement it. Next, have a very strong password and avoid using the same password for multiple sites. So years ago, I knew a fella that was going to go to work for a very influential person in the government. And he had a master's degree in computer security. And one time in talking to him about passwords, he says, well, you know, one of the most safest way to select a password is simply take a book. So we're gonna utilize the CIA World Fact Book, which I of course read on a daily basis. This thing is seriously thick, and they have awful thin print in it. but you simply open it up to a page and pick a word. So the first one I see is disputes. Then, and you could use a second book for this, but I'm just going to flip to another page, and it says petroleum. So we're going to have a password of disputes, petroleum, and then you put a random number to it, put a special character. Now you have a really serious password, but you're safe. So that's one suggestion that you might use for having strong passwords. Next is install and maintain security software, particularly antivirus and malware software. Have a firewall. This will prevent a lot of malicious activity. Another task to implement is to secure your Wi-Fi network. Use a particularly strong password for your Wi-Fi network and disable guest services. And finally, update your software regularly. Software updates often contain security updates. So there are 12 suggestions on how to improve your digital security. This is of critical importance now. Just on the day of this filming, the Federal Bureau of Investigation director reported to Congress on the concerns about how China will do a nationwide cyber warfare if they deem it necessary. Well, we need to get ready for it. Now, I would say, as far as a national one where they go after our infrastructure of the electric system, the water system, the supply chain, hospital services, this is where an area where you need to be self-reliant. Such self-reliance would include emergency storage of water, water filtration equipment, food, some flashlights, perhaps a backup solar generator, much in the sense of emergency preparedness as you would see in areas like Florida, where people find this type of preparedness commonplace due to hurricanes and tropical storms. Be prepared.